Welcome back everyone, it's time to go balls deep! So, Monkey D. Luffy just awakened his legendary HITO no Mi model Nika Devil Fruit, activating Gear 5 to, slap the crap out of Kaido. This new Looney Tunes power-up raised so many questions in our community, because Luffy's Gear 5th isn't just simply a bounce world awakening. With it, Oda also confirmed Luffy is the JoyBoy everyone was waiting for. But that's not all. Luffy's Devil Fruit also holds the key to the mysteries of the Void Century and the war 800 years ago. It seems in less than a few chapters, Luffy became an ordinary dream-seeking pirate to a messiah, giving God Usopp a run for his money. The point I'm making is that Luffy being JoyBoy and his new Nika mode of the liberating god put the community in a weird place. A lot of you guys didn't like the idea of Luffy being some prophesized child, or even him being special in any type of way. Some even questioned Oda taking a wrong turn with this altogether, as Luffy is the embodiment of freedom. But how can one be free whilst being shackled by their own destiny? Well, don't worry, because we're here to clarify any confusions you guys might have and explain the details in which Oda prepped for this magnificent story, breaking down the signs and foreshadowings you all might have missed. To start things off, let's run 26 years back to 1996, when Oda first published his prototype to One Piece, Romance Dawn version 1. Without going through the whole one-shot chapter, the key thing I want to point out is Luffy's dream. In this prototype, Luffy explains how he doesn't just want to be any ordinary pirate, rather he wants to become a peace main, where he elaborates that there are different kinds of pirate in the world. The one who goes around indiscriminately plundering are called Morgania, whilst those who goes on lots of adventures are called peace main. He wants to recruit peace main crew members like himself, but the world is full of Morgania types who just wants to loot and plunder. Through this non-canon one-shot, we can understand the initial stages Oda had in his mind when he came up with the direction he wanted Luffy to go, and already classified the type of pirate Luffy was going to become. Peace Main and Morgania pirates, though not referred by name, are still portrayed within the pirate world Oda created. Later we will even explain how Oda was inspired by certain historical pirates to come up with this very classification of how Luffy's dream to be truly free was also envisioned by a real-life pirate, a figure who went by the name of Captain James Mission, who founded Libertalia, the legendary free colony. And get this guys, the pirate utopia motto was "For God and Liberty," and their flag was white. White just like Luffy's Gear 5th transformation. But first, let's come to the idea of how thematically Oda from the very beginning had depicted Luffy as the embodiment of what it is to be free and to share that freedom. This whole idea of freedom is what Luffy has been spreading through his whole story, and in chapter 1044, it all materialized into the form of the drums of liberation and sun god Nika. Nika, who was said to be called a warrior of liberation. Nika didn't just aspire to have freedom for himself, he wanted to free the shackles on people in the world, and then he would bring peace. Luffy's new transformation is a step closer to being the warrior of liberation, just like Nika, and further inheriting the will of JoyBoy. Now, like I said, freedom is a major theme in One Piece, primarily in our main character Monkey D. Luffy. His whole goal is personified through the word liberation. I mean, his aim is to become the king of pirates, but not for fame, riches, or to conquer the sea. He simply believes that the pirate king is the freest person on the sea, so that's who he will become.
But with Luffy's Gear 5 and the activation of the Drums of Liberation, many of you may be thinking that Luffy just recently became JoyBoy or the Warrior of Liberation. Well, the reality is far from that. In fact, Luffy was always the Warrior of Liberation from the very beginning. The biggest things that guide Luffy in his journey through each island is his will and personality. From the start, we see him as someone free, breaking out of that barrel as if he was breaking out of the shackles of society and putting the middle finger to authority. Similarly, Kobe, stuck in Alvida's boat, sees his freedom and is influenced by Luffy's tenacity. The influence even extends to nations like Alabasta or giving Robin the will to live. His freedom is so powerful that even though he doesn't want to be a hero and share his meat, he is unconsciously liberating and sharing his joy with others, because that's just his personality. Even Luffy's whole crew are with him after he motivated and liberated him. He frees Zoro so he can become the greatest swordsman to the Pirate King, freeing Nami from Arlong to follow her dream of charting all the oceans, getting Usopp off Sir Village so he can actually become a brave warrior of the sea, similar to his tall tales. Even Sanji from the guilt of serving his savior and foster father Zeph to chase his dream of all blue. Luffy then got Chopper to become a great doctor following in Hero Luck's ideology. This goes on and not only for Luffy's crew but extends to entire islands, like Luffy spreading his freedom by liberating Konomi Islands from Arlong so he could help his friend Nami, saving Drum Island for Chopper, Alabasta for his friend and fellow Nakama Vivi. In Skypiea, Luffy's crew and ship Mary get taken by Enel to the upper yard, and his new friend Connis is considered a criminal and needs to be executed by Enel by disobeying orders. So of course, Luffy, in order to save his crew and help his new friend, goes to the upper yard and beats the crap out of Enel, the false god with the drums of oppression. Now Enel is quite interesting in Skypiea, where he is lightning based, meaning he can't hurt Luffy as rubber is an insulator. It's like Enel, the embodiment of oppression, who sees and hears everything through his mantra, has oppressed the people of Skypiea. He has given them no freedoms and plays his drums for his lightning to strike anyone who is against him. However, Luffy is the embodiment of freedom. Thus, even though oppression seems to be stronger, he wins out in the end and survives. Even the drums of liberation versus the drums of oppressions are parallels to Luffy and Enel. Moving on to Thriller Bark now, where Luffy defeated Moria since his new crewmate Brooks had his shadow stolen and couldn't go on adventures with him. Also, Moria took the whole crew's shadows, so they decided they needed those back too, you know. In the process, he freed everyone oppressed by Moria who were in the darkness and led them to their first dawn. Like literally, he led them to their first dawn in ages. In Sabaody with the Celestial Dragons, Luffy arrived at the slave auction and saw the inhumane things being done to the slaves, especially to his own friends Kami and Hachi. Slavery is the literal opposition to what Luffy strives for, and Luffy was the only one with the balls to do anything. He gave the Celestial Dragon one of the most satisfying punches in all of anime, even with the grave consequence this could have, having a Navy Admiral summon. In Dressrosa, Luffy wanted to get Ace's fruit and help his new samurai friends find Kanjuro, but he becomes friends with Rebecca and sees the oppression going around due to Doflamingo, even defeating Dolphy in Law's place. Then in Wano, where he is helping Momo, Kinemon, and the samurai, especially helping his friend Tama, who gave him her rice even though she was hungry. Luffy fought these oppressors for the sake of others because he believed in himself to be the Pirate King, along with its concept of true freedom. Luffy's action is based on his ideals, and seeing others hurt and oppressed is his crossing point, something which goes back to the term peace main, which prototype Luffy dreamt to be in the one-shot. With each liberation, he just goes to a new island. Instead of exerting control, which is to be expected by a king, Luffy still remains free, unlike a normal king would, like Nefertari Cobra, who has responsibility over his kingdom. Luffy, after his liberation, he just leaves behind a bit of his freedom and influences a sense of independence, igniting a fire to the people, resulting in his own freedom from authority over them. This is also showcased when Bartolomeo arranged Luffy's grand fleet. Luffy wasn't interested in it one bit, so they ended up deciding that they will follow him wherever he needs help, but they are not tied to him. Luffy is always free, with just his small merry-go nakamas. Now, One Piece chapter 1044 changes none of this about Luffy's true character. This chapter simply reframes the whole journey Luffy takes to get to this point in the story and actually strengthens the freedom of Luffy. As Yusuf said before about Nika, the warrior of liberation, Luffy is just going island to island liberating people, similar to Nika's legend. He has freed every truly Straw Hat and has been going on a path to grow stronger to keep his freedom. Hence why he took the 2-year break to train himself and his crew so they could have the strength to preserve their freedom in the new world. Luffy goes on a journey where he pushes his limits every arc for freedom, fighting Crocodile the Warlord to now a Yonko in Wano. Every arc, Luffy innovated and pushed the limits of what his fruit was capable of. He freed the potential of his power, only limited by his imagination and freedom of will. A lot of people are acting like this is some new information. However, Luffy has just become more free than ever before with Gear 5. He died for people of Wano, laughing and having fun with a smile just like JoyBoy would have. It's just that these conditions were never prevalent before.
So now that we understand Luffy was always a liberator by his own nature, let's link it back to his destiny, JoyBoy and the sounds of liberation. Yes, even though Oda used Luffy as a medium to achieve freedom for himself and others, the plot of an ancient idea and dream for this freedom lived on throughout time for over 800 years. From JoyBoy's treasure and the story he left in Laugh Tale, to the promise he made to the Poseidon of the past, to the anticipation of JoyBoy's return to those who held on to the mysteries of the Void Century. Even the will of D to liberate the people seeking true freedom and fight against anything that says no to that freedom. Time has kept all of that alive. This was something beyond a boy who was born in the East Blue. However, in all of this, Luffy unknowingly did become a prophesized king to fulfill the will of those before him. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, then make sure to watch our video on why Luffy is JoyBoy, where we explain all the prior evidence from the Sea King's prophecy to Madame Shirley to the freaking whales and all yes guys, the whales, going over Luffy's destiny, which is the fate to topple the world's power and to be the liberator the world needs, the awaited JoyBoy. This perfectly brings us to the question on how Luffy is the embodiment of freedom but still can be shackled by his destiny. Well, as we've been saying, Luffy hasn't really followed anyone other than himself. He's steering his own ship, of course with the help of Nami and now Jinbei, but you guys get what I mean, right? He is still the captain of his own fate. Luffy is free. Just because something was predicted or envisioned from the people of the past, it doesn't take anything away from Luffy's journey or his freedom. In a way, we can think of it like future sight of the observation hockey. Just cause the future is seen, it doesn't mean it was dictated. The concept of seeing into the future using hockey is still just an advanced method of reading feelings, will and intent. This circles back to JoyBoy's era, where he understood that no matter what, in the future there'll be countless others whose will is aligned to his own. This can even be said true in regards to devil fruits, where we know that JoyBoy's Nika fruit has some sort of will of its own and somehow was being pulled towards a user of his choice. Blackbeard said the same thing when he told Ace it was as if the Yami Yami no Mi chose him. The way I understand it, prediction and prophecies in the world of One Piece is akin to observation hockey but on an extreme level. We explained this in detail in a hockey video, but hockey draws a line from the physical world to the heavens and vice versa, where the heavenly realm represents a transcendence of spirit and will. In this realm, time is irrelevant. So if somehow a person mixes the Conqueror's hockey with the observation hockey, it's not impossible to assume they could read the will of those from the future. Now, I'm not saying that JoyBoy or the one who started all of these prophecies used the observation hockey in this manner, but if they did, it would mean that all they are doing is reading a person's will and intentions. The person's intent that they are reading is not being controlled or really being dictated in any ways, rather it's just being read, much like how we read and observe the story of One Piece. So again, the whole idea of Luffy losing his freedom due to a prophecy is silly.
All in all, Oda always intended for his story to be about freedom and liberation. In fact, his whole history is likely inspired from real life events. First, starting with a story from the 17th century, where a pirate named James Mission or Oliver Mission was born. A pirate who was forgotten in the world as people thought he was some legend or myth, like they didn't even know he existed. Despite this, he left a huge mark on the world of piracy, much like Nolan. Mission was born into a family of wealth in Provence, France, but after seeing the oppressive ways of the rich, he abandoned his title to live in the real world and understand its realities. He decided to become a pirate. Mission went against the government, stating all men are born free and should be given the same rights to freedom. It seems likely that Mission's entire ideology is what set Oda on the idea of freedom. We see Luffy throughout the manga not judge people based on their circumstances, like Boa Hancock for instance, and even when he got angry against the Celestial Dragons, his entire crew almost got killed, but he still said afterwards in Amazon Lily that he didn't regret it after what they did to his friend. This shows that despite Luffy's claims of not wanting to be one, he is a hero, and if he sees someone in chains, he won't hesitate to help them. Mission was said to be a captain of a crew 200 strong, but shared the wealth evenly through his crew, which links back to Roger in the way that no matter how big his crew was, or in Roger's case how big his name became, he respected his crew and never became arrogant. Despite their stories being similar, Mission died leaving no legacy behind, with many doubting he even existed, whilst Roger incited the new era of piracy, showing that fate is a major factor in One Piece, and Oda likely wanted to show how a single change or twist of destiny causes something small to become something huge. Now, if you still believe that this is a stretch, then just look at the cover story for Orlumbus, another French pirate like Mission. His cover story is particularly identical to Mission. In chapter 903, we see him choosing to become a pirate. The next chapter has his resignation from his kingdom. After this, we have him living as a common man trying to understand the world better. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? In chapter 907, we see him fully prepared for the life of piracy, and the next chapter of his life with him stealing 56 ships and leaving. He then starts planning to be a pirate and finally launches his first attack as a pirate in chapter 909. But it doesn't end there, as Oda proves once again how goated he is by having the chapter 910 titled Onward to Wano, and has Olympus finding an impoverished area before feeding them with no hesitation. Now this links back to Mission, like treating all lives equally. It foreshadows the darkness that follows in Wano, with people being so happy just to receive food, oppressed by Kaido and Orochi. An important detail was that this whole story was shown during the Reverie arc. Even JoyBoy's dream is identical to Mission's, with the unification of all races coming together, much like Big Mom's dream with Totoland. Whilst her idea of it was skewed, his wasn't, as he wanted all pirates to live in complete freedom, no government, no laws, just free. But unlike JoyBoy, who failed in his dream, which is backed up by his apology to his era's Poseidon and him having to pass on the gold for 800 years through the Kozuki clan, we can assume the ancient kingdom was this paradise, but it was destroyed or was stopped before it could even get going by an individual, which we theorize to be Im-sama. If you want more on that, check out the video on screen. The ancient kingdom would likely be Libertia or Liberania, depending on how Oda decides to name it. Now, unlike JoyBoy, Mission succeeded in his goal of creating the Utopia Pirates. Mission created his own land, labeled Libertia, where all pirates could go to be free, and was a holy land, literally called Liberation. The pirates of this land inherited Mission's will, with them attacking and freeing the shackled slaves from their oppressors. And as people inherited his will, the same is true in One Piece, with our Luffy inheriting JoyBoy's. Now, this whole idea isn't exactly new. Many media have done this. I mean, look at Assassin's Creed Black Flag. The whole game is based off of the idea of freedom and even includes the Libertia Island where pirates were free. There was also another pirate captain linked to this utopia, that pirate being Avery Henry, also known as the King of the Pirates.
Suspicious.
Initially, Oda even wanted to name Blackbeard Avery Thing D. Teach, but after consulting his editor, he decided against it. If we look into this, we can notice the similarities between these two characters. Avery Henry was often seen as an antithesis to Mission, with him holding slaves and shackling them, unlike Mission, who breaks those shackles. He was seen as a hero. And of course, in One Piece, their counterparts are Luffy and Blackbeard, with some differences because Luffy doesn't even want to be a hero, he just wants to be. Going back to the prototype version of One Piece, this idea was more clearly stated, with Luffy saying there are two types of pirates. pirates, as Yusuf mentioned earlier, Peacemane and Morgania. But it also means that Luffy goes against everything these Morganias do, where they attack people mercilessly. Peacemen fight the Morgania to be more free, linking back to Avery and Mission. The whole idea of utopia is shown through multiple characters in One Piece in Japanese analogies. Crocodile's operation was labeled Utopia and created his own kingdom. Kaido labeled his kingdom New Onigashima and made it in his own twisted way. I mean, Onigashima literally means den of demons. Blackbeard told Moria during their interaction that his island was one of paradise, meaning parties in his ideal. And as we already mentioned, Big Mom created Totoland to unify all races, but she went against freedom by threatening her own country if they didn't supply her with lifespan. All of these huge pirates take the whole idea of utopia in the complete wrong way, but one person who did understand the idea of utopia was Gold D. Roger, as he told Whitebeard that before going to Laugh Tale, he would create the world's greatest pirate group. But Whitebeard saw this as impossible, and in a way, he wasn't wrong, as even though Roger's goal was to unite the pirate world, he couldn't truly hold the torch for a new era, as balance in the world would be unstable and the world government wouldn't allow that, as they feel they must always be in power. Now, although he couldn't hold the torch, he could ignite the flame and wait for someone to inherit his will and make his dream a reality, but the worry was that an evil pirate may take up the reins like Rocks, for example. But Whitebeard was wrong, as was shown, where, well, the physical representation of this change was in Marineford, where the man who thought this was impossible, Whitebeard saw a flicker of hope in Luffy, who was saying that he would be the next king of pirates, inheriting Roger's will. He told all of his fellow pirates to protect him at all costs, and told Blackbeard, the man who inherited Rock's ideals, that he wasn't the man Roger was waiting for. Luffy has no other agenda. He truly just wants to be free and have fun. His whole transformation of Gear 5 symbolizes that. I mean, he's just doing what he wants and stating that he's having a blast. He will create the utopia that JoyBoy or Nika wanted to. He will create the true Libertania as the warrior of liberation. And after this goal is achieved by Luffy, there would be a huge party of meat. And mead, of course, for Zoro. If you like this video, then check out this video displayed to you on screen, because that's even more fire. Anyway, see you guys next time.